Hola, amigos, ¿cómo estás? I'm not sure if this is working. You never know. Facebook gives you this weird laggy thing at my end. It said we need a video source, and now I see myself, so I'm assuming you guys can see me too. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. I hope some of you guys grew up on 90s wrestling and get that reference. If you don't, it probably just sounds like a crazy dude, but that's some old Road Dogg Jesse James, some badass Billy Gunn, the New Age Outlaws. Funny little word about that before we get into the Q&A. I've had clients choose to work with me just because of some of those personality elements. I've had like people say, I hired you because you sign your emails. May the force be with you. So you would be amazed at the kind of things that get clients that have nothing to do with anything. We're going to do some awesome questions in a minute. Just a quick little announcement. I want to give a warm welcome. We got a lot of new people this week as well in the mastermind, and I'm stoked to have you guys. You guys are some of the coolest people on the internet. Like the people who come here who build lifestyle businesses where they get to actually hang with their family and do things and enjoy a meal out. Whatever freedom represents for you. You guys are the coolest people ever. Let's get in the Q&A here. Nabil says, looking for suggestion on marketing automation tool. What is everyone using here? Nabil, obviously the big thing depends on what you're trying to automate, since you haven't really been specific. Now, I will tell you the gold standard of automation tools that gets talked about the most frequently and the greatest number of people in our groups use is Go High Level, depending on what your agency is. It's a big all-in-one tool with a lot of functionality, but it depends on what you're trying to automate. Sometimes little simple things can just be done with Zapier, so I'd ask you to give a little more detail on that, and we can give you some cool stuff. Christopher, during the fact-finding part of the process, it would be useful for me to know how much revenue the prospects brings in per year, but I feel that's too forward a question. Am I being ridiculous? Does anybody else ask this? Well, there's a couple ways to look at this. Okay, it says my live is experiencing performance issues. I have no idea what that means. Probably that my computer's being shit. Christopher, yes. You can ask people directly, and what was your revenue last year? And the best way to do that is just to say, and what's your revenue goal in the future? Having said that, I like to know that before we even get on a call, like ballpark where they are. And I'll tell you what I look for is, like with law firms, for example, is I can tell by the size of the practice, how many people actually work there. So I think one of the best things is if you have a certain revenue target, then usually look for like the infrastructure that would support that revenue target. Like if I look on the website and there's just one lawyer, typically I know he's probably making between 100 and 250,000 a year. Thank you, Miss Dave, our tech wizard, our genius, and soon to be sales wizard, working on it. So one lawyer is usually doing between 100,000 and 250,000, before expenses and everything. That's not like their take home. But I know if they've got a team of 5 lawyers, I can probably multiply that number by 5, and it's probably, $500,000 to $1 million practice before expenses, of course. So one of the best things you can do, just figure out how big your ideal client is, and you can tell that before you even get on the phone with them. Having said that, if you're uncomfortable asking the question, if it feels weird to you or just incongruent, and I've understood, like I've had really good sales scripts where the questions are just perfect and it felt incongruent to me. Like one of the things a lot of coaching programs teach is like, tell me what's not working about your practice or what's not working about your life. And I just never felt good. Like, tell me everything wrong with you, right? I like to solve problems, but I don't know, it never felt congruent. So there's almost always another way to ask that question. You can ask it in the form of like, and tell me how many clients or how many customers you serve. And that gives you an idea of the revenue they're doing. So in my case, like I know personal injuries average about $4,000 to $6,000 per case. If they tell me they got 100 clients and they're an average of $5,000 each, I can do some easy math, right? So that's another way to ask it. But the easiest thing I would say is get really clear on what size client you want. And you can almost tell, just look at the picture on the website, the About Us, and I can tell everything you need to know right from that. Good question, by the way. Franco, when people tell you, if you're so sure that your program is going to work and bring me 5, 6, 7 figure months, Why don't you work with me first and let me pay you when I get those results? Ooh, Franco, I'm going to tell you what you should do. Fucking run! And I'll tell you why. I do actually believe in working with clients on revenue share, but almost always that sort of attitude comes from a client who has been burned before many times. I call it the beaten wife. And usually if they've been burned a lot, not that I'm saying it's like all their fault, but they have other underlying business issues. They can't close people. They can't follow up with people. They don't have enough to differentiate them. Maybe they have bad reviews. Things like that. And so what will end up happening is you'll work with them and you'll uncover those underlying issues and then realize they're much, much harder to help and that a revenue share sounds like a bad idea. Now, when should you do a revenue share is a better question. And the answer is really simple, is when you're the one proposing it. When you've actually done your due diligence that this is the right kind of client. Like I've mentioned in our masterminds, I've been pursuing Joe Dispenza for a year, and I'm pursuing Joe Dispenza on the basis of a revenue share. And part of the reason I'm doing that is because I've hand-selected Joe Dispenza as somebody really cool that I know has a big list of people and has lots of products and things like that. So when I'm offering a revenue share, it's me who's choosing it. That's very different, because usually the clients who say, how about I pay you after, are usually kind of broke, kind of struggling, and there's usually reasons for that, and you're going to get yourself into a lot of trouble. So if they propose it, run. Run, Forrest, run. Jenny and me go together like peas and carrots. So yeah, that was one I had a post about the other day. Michael, what is your process for communicating between account managers, SEO, and PPC teams so everyone has visibility as to what's going on with all accounts? Is there something specific you all do that lets you be proactive and not reactive? Michael, the simple answer is that's what project management was invented for. Dave the Wizard is a huge fan here of ClickUp. I've heard a lot of good things about ClickUp. Some people really like Trello. I didn't personally like Trello. It's the simplest to use, but I don't know. I found it limiting because once you actually have like 20 things in there, it just makes this huge, long thing. And I'm sure there's a way to change it, but I hate learning new software as a general rule. It was too complicated. So for me, we do it in Asana. And Asana is just like really simple. It's just like a checklist done digitally, and then you can share who it's for, and you can make it recurring or have a deadline or whatever. So we do it with Asana, and then you just include certain people in projects and not in others so they can see what's going on. But what you're describing is basically the purpose of any kind of project management software. Our man Justin. Has anyone tried a financial incentive to book appointments with a potential client, i.e. we will offer you a $25 Amazon gift card for a 20-minute strategy session that does that sound a little cheap for my brand? I personally have been reached out by some companies with that offer, so I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's basically you're replacing your lead magnet with a cash or gift card. Justin, I never want to tell you there's one way to be successful, so if that works for you, do it. I would tell you I would personally not do that, as I feel it like kind of cheapens the brand. There's a big difference between, hey, I want to give you a bonus reciprocity $20 gift card so we can have a coffee and talk about our future meeting. But there's a difference between like, I need to bribe you to get on the phone. That stuff tends to work really, really well in mass market stuff. You see timeshares do that all the time. I mean, timeshares like, hey, I'll let you pitch me for 3 hours really hard, and I'm going to bribe you with some kind of $100 gift or whatever. And I've been to a few of those kind of timeshare presentations. But in general, doesn't work so well for our kind of stuff where your value needs to stand alone for itself. Now, having said that, you can do it as a bonus, as a gift, and those kind of things, and they help for that. But I would never make like, come meet with me and I'll give you $25 worth of Starbucks. I think that ultimately detracts from what you're trying to do and will probably bring the wrong people, because if a $25 gift card is meaningful to them, then they're probably not the kind of client you want anyway. Shivan, need some advice. I'm currently generating leads at $7 a lead through Facebook ads, but my lead to meeting ratio is pretty low. Out of 8 to 9 leads, I get 1 meeting. Do you guys have any advice to increase the number of meetings I can squeeze from my leads? If anyone is running Facebook ads, please tell me this is normal or not. Shivan, this is not only normal, but believe it or not, your numbers are actually good, especially if you're talking about leads for your own agency. So if you're getting leads at $7 a piece and 1 out of 9 of those is booking with you, that means for $63, you're getting somebody on the phone. If you close even just poorly, which would be 1 out of 10 of those people, you would pay $630. If you're charging $2,000 a month and they stay an average of 3 months, that means you're paying $630 to make $6,000. And if you get better at retention in those things, you can make that number more like $30,000 to a $30,000 client for $630. So those are actually, your numbers are more than good enough. It's pretty normal. Now, having said that, if you want to have like more of those conversions, just like make the offer better and then add more kind of long-term nurturing. Never, like, we kind of, a lawyer once told me that this is how they look at their client list. They say, you're either going to buy, you're going to die, or you're going to unsubscribe. But those are the only 3 endings they can do, is the old buy, die, or unsubscribe. And in your case, you want to like treat them like, that they're there forever, basically. Sruthi, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Which social media platform are you using to market your business? This one comes up a lot, as if there is one perfect platform that's the solution. Everybody says you should do Facebook, and then another group of people says you should do Google and SEO. It is not as complicated as everybody makes it. There is no one magic bullet, and the answer is really simple. Go where your clients already are. So I've said this before, in redneck niches, people tend to be offline a lot. So if you're trying to reach a roofer and you're going to try and do it in a Facebook group, good luck with that, because just not a lot of roofers in Facebook groups. At least I would guess not. Landscapers and these people exist in the real world, so you might have to go to real world meetings or pitch them in direct mail or cold call them or things like that. But if you're trying to reach a bunch of e-commerce people, there are probably just loads of them in Facebook groups. And if I'm trying to reach like professional types in the real world, they tend to a lot of times be on LinkedIn. So there's no one size fits all. Go where the clients are, make them an offer, get in front of those people, and don't add extra steps that really need to be there. There's no one social media platform. It depends on who you're trying to reach. Anwar. Can somebody recommend a book, training, or resources that will help a total newbie with cold calling? Specifically with scripts or frameworks, not to necessarily sell on a first call, but gauge interest and potentially invite to a meeting or webinar for further information. I have no sales background, so for me, I'm sure there are some seasoned salespeople here who can hopefully point me in the right direction. Anwar, there's somebody I'm going to really, really recommend to you that was a big influence on me. And you could say everything I'm about to say that you just asked about cold calling, also with cold outreach. And the gentleman's name is Ari Gelper, Arigalper. And one of the things Ari taught me is that when salespeople cold call in general, they use certain scripts and formats that they all copy from each other that give away the fact that they're just another salesperson. And it usually sounds like this. They said, hi, my name's Frankie. I'm calling from company XYZ, and the reason I'm calling today is because ... And so they almost all follow that framework. And what happens is, before I've even actually opened my mouth, the person knows I have something for sale, and it is their conditioned response to try and shut that down. And so you'll get just automatically shut down and ignored because people get pitched so often that they have to do that. And so what Ari suggested was to use the language of the customer to mirror it. So like, for example, they sold photocopy machines, and he would just say, hey, it's Ari calling. If you don't mind me asking, who handles the copy issues in the company? And they'll just give you the answer. And one of the things he noticed is that customers don't even always introduce themselves. They often just ask a question. They say, what are your hours? Do you sell this? Do you offer that? Like, the customers just goes right into the reason they're calling without, hello, my name is customer, and the reason I'm calling today is because, and I'm calling from company XYZ at this location. They don't formally introduce themselves. And so he suggested, just like really simple, straightforward, that if you're trying to sell a copy machine, that you want to find out who handles the copy issues. And so he would say, who handles the copy issues? And they would say, George. And he'd say, can you connect me to George's phone? And then he would say, George, I hear you handle the copy issues. And then how he would open with George is really, really simple, is just to say, do you have issues with blank, which is the very thing they solve. He wouldn't say, hey, my name's Ari, and I'm from the photocopy company, and the reason I'm calling today is George, because blah, blah, blah. So when you're doing cold outreach, there's a tendency to say, what most people do, they start with some generic, I hope you're doing well, my name is, and I'm from this company, and the reason I'm messaging you is all of, this kind of stuff. And you don't need to do any of that. In fact, it's better that you don't. It's better that you just say, hey, are you guys interested in that? Or do you guys handle this? So, for example, really, really well done version of this. Dean Jackson, who's a well-known marketer, used to run a restaurant agency for years. He might still do it. I don't know. But at least he used to at one point. And they used to reach out to restaurants, and their opener was for a birthday campaign. Now, if he had opened and said, hey, my name's Dean, and I'm calling from restaurant company XYZ, and the reason I'm calling today is because I want to offer you a birthday campaign, he'd probably get hung up on a lot. And that's how most of them go, because it's just an automatic programmed response. So Dean would open, he would call them up, and just like a customer would say, hey, do you guys handle large birthday parties? And of course, they would say yes. And then he would say, can you handle any more? And they would say, yeah. And then he said, well, I've got a campaign that generates birthday campaigns. Can I send you just a little info about it? Or can we set up a call where I tell you about it? Or whatever the next step is for them. And so it's very, very powerful when you mimic the language of the customer and just say, hey, do you guys handle birthday parties? Right? That sounds like a question a customer would ask. And the beauty and simplicity of that is customers get responded to almost 100% of the time. So I have people that like have tell me they send thousands of messages to get a few responses, and when they try it the Ari way, which is how I learned it, you almost get responses right away because they think that it's a potential customer asking it. And even though it's a little bit bait and switchy, they're usually very open to discuss it because they've agreed there's a need for it. So that's a real key in that system. Anwar. Ben. My click-through rate has been very low, only 1.9. What should I do? Please help. Ben, that is, obviously there's a lot of missing pieces to give you a specific answer for that, but I'll tell you one of the most misunderstood parts of business are the numbers, because I hear a lot of times people tell me about their click-through rate, their conversion rate percentage, even their sales and all those things, but there is a hidden thing that most people miss, and the goal of business, by the way, and most people miss this, is to turn clicks and conversions and webinars or whatever you're doing and sales into long-term customers. And so the best place to start is to think, who is my perfect and best long-term customer? And it really, really helps if you have real people. You can go, that person was just awesome or is just awesome, and work to clone those people, because there's a hidden metric in all of this called, am I attracting the right people? And I'll tell you, I've had ads with really bad conversion rates and low click-through rates and even low registration rates, but the people coming out were just so qualified and so perfect that my funnel worked anyway, despite the fact that my front-end numbers would look otherwise shit. But because I'm looking at the real important number is, are the right people showing up on the other side, crushing it. Actually crushing it in terms of real world sales and repeat business and revenues generated in the business. I've also had the exact opposite, by the way, is I've had it where I've had a business that has really cheap leads, abundant phone calls, people, registering for calls to work with us, and then you get on the phone and realize that person was a waste of time. They weren't a fit. But if you looked at my funnel numbers, I could show you, hey, we're getting $10, $20 meetings booked all day long for an $8,000 sale, and yet they're the wrong people, and they're the wrong people, and they're the wrong people, and the wrong people, so the funnel's really going nowhere. So you got to look at the entirety of it. Are the right people coming through? And then what I would suggest is optimize and tweak each piece for that, and be sure and make sure that the right people are coming through, and pay less attention to my click-through rates really high, my click-through rates really low. Because sometimes, I'll give you an example. If I'm trying to target a TV lawyer who spends $100,000 a month, and I run an ad that says, hey, are your TV ads costing you more than $1,000 per signed case? Well, there's probably only a couple hundred TV lawyers, like big spenders, in all of America, maybe 500 to 1,000 total across the country. Maybe there's more than that. It's probably like 5,000. But 5,000 lawyers in total, right? We're not talking a huge number. So my click-through rates are going to be really low. But almost anybody who clicks on an ad that says, yes, my TV rates or my TV cases are way too high, is going to be very qualified. So think less about vanity metrics. I've had people come to me and say, I got 250,000 followers and I'm making 0 sales. What should I do? Those are vanity metrics that way too many people pay attention to in business, which is why I say the most important number in your business is how many of your clients stay long-term or paying you month 13, month 27, things like that. The more you can optimize for that, the better you'll do long-term. Carlson. I want to run Facebook ads for my web development agency. How do I target the right demographic? Please help me. Carlson, there's a step that's been missed in your question, which is that it assumes that like targeting people is just how do I find people who are interested in buying a website, and that's like interested in asking how do I find people who are interested in Google AdWords, or how do I find people who like to travel, right? It's so broad of a question that it's unanswerable. And the step before that you've missed is in order to target properly and in order to scale an agency, you got to niche down. You got to be somebody to somebody. So the question you need to be asking yourself is, who do I want to be known as and to who? And specialize in that, and then your targeting problem will get abundantly easier. Because right now you're just trying to target. You're targeting. If I had an interest on Facebook, it would say anybody who's interested in a website. That's really, really hard. But like, say I niche down and I decide to specialize in plastic surgery websites. Well, that's very easy. Now I just go to plastic surgeons and things like that, and I say, hey, are you a plastic surgeon thinking about redoing your website, right? It's a very, very simple targeting and copy move. So the issue with you is not necessarily, in terms of your question, is not the targeting question, even though it sounds like it is. The step before has been missed where you haven't niched down, and if you don't niche down, then it's just too big of a question. It'd be like, how do I target people who own a business, right? What's up, PJ? When you're just trying to target anyone and everyone, like if I try and target business owners, that means, somebody selling stuff on an Etsy store all the way to Fortune 500 CEO. It's such a broad range. It's e-commerce people, it's brick and mortar people, it's online entrepreneurs, it's like coaches, it's consultants. Like, there's so many different kinds of businesses. There's investors, right? So if you don't niche down, the question is too broad, and then you won't be able to nail down the targeting. So if you have some trouble on the niche, I've got a document that'll help kind of walk you through it. Let me know and I'll send it over. Randy, do we need to have do we need a client to have an active Facebook business page with regular content in order to run Facebook ads campaigns? Sorry, Randy, that's actually a carryover question from last week. But no, you do not. And you can just run ads. I've probably never actually ran a business page with anything on it, and I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my own ads and millions in client money. And no, you do not. We do not make regular posts. It's not. Having said that, it is a good thing. I've just never prioritized it and made it. You can always improve relationships and things like that. So that's all I got for you guys for questions. By the way, we're going to be doing some more trainings this week. I know a lot of you guys mentioned that a lot of your clients complain about the lead problem. My leads are bad, and we're going to do some stuff on how to not only get the right kind of people so your clients can close them, but actually how to make their life easier, and also how to bring the issue up preemptively so that they don't blame you later. And it's when you do that, like, there's a lot of amazing pieces. So I don't know exactly when I'm going to do that, but it'll be over the next couple of days, week or two, depending on how I feel. It depends on how tired the children make me, to be quite honest with you guys. But I'll keep you guys posted on that, and thank you guys for all the wonderful questions. I'll be throwing up the replay here on YouTube as well, some other cool stuff. So if you're not following on YouTube, I highly recommend it. And that's all I got for you guys. May the force be with you.